season or something. He's never going to have that.
No.
That's Jones's position in that defense. So that's why, Jones would probably be the one more likely to go than Van Noy, because Van Noy is not a stat stuffer.
Other front linemen, Lawrence Guy, Danny Shelton, those guys have been great at plugging the hole. But if there is a weakness of the Patriots defense that's been pointed out, it's been against the run. So I could see them not being there. Adam Butler, though, has been a very strong guy that a lot of people don't know about. The Butler did it. You definitely, you don't want to take this Patriots defense too lightly. It seems like the voters did. Stephon Gilmore is another Patriot that gets in at corner. Marlon Humphreys, Marcus Peters, Tre'Davious White. J.C. Jackson is right up there in terms of number of interceptions this season. He did get 2 last week, which brought him higher on the interception list. He'd be the only other New England defensive cornerback that I would think about adding, but I couldn't take any of the other guys off for J.C. Jackson. Now, this is another hard one, because again, when we're talking about this Patriots defense, Devin McCourty had a huge start to the beginning of the season where he had an interception for every game for like 5 straight games. It was ridiculous. He is not in the safeties. He's not here with the safeties. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Earl Thomas make it as free safeties. Jamal Adams makes it as a strong safety. Devin McCourty definitely needs some love there, and I'd probably take Earl Thomas off the list.
I have no problem with that. I would probably also question Jamal Adams being on this list. I get it. He's young. He's a name. What's his second year in the league? I'm not really gung-ho about him being there, but I can't think of anybody offhand to put in his place.
No, the thing I will say about Jamal Adams is he is the leader of that team. That's another guy who performs. He does things that don't show up on a stat sheet that I don't have a problem with him making the Pro Bowl because of it.
But, Jay, outside of the game against the Cowboys, every time I see the Jets on TV, their defense is getting lit up, specifically the secondary. And he's a part of that unit getting lit up. And sometimes he's getting lit up when he's helping in a double team. So, I mean, most of what I've seen of Adams is not good. And whether it's scheme or him being out of position, I mean, there's often receivers running by him. Now, you want to talk about him and as a safety in the box and being one of the best in the league? Sure. But as far as passing coverage, can't really make a case for him being here.
I mean, the other thing is, this is not the construction of a regular team, right? Most teams have 3 tight ends. Most teams will have 5 or 6 wide receivers.
Yep.
You're definitely going to have more linebackers. You have usually like 5 or 6 corners, probably 4 safeties, not 3. So again, I don't get the construction of the team, but it is what it is.
The game has evolved and this roster construction hasn't.
All right.
But I get it because of whatever the payouts are, you're limited to X number of players play. So
Brett Kern and Justin Tucker are your kickers. Kern is the punter. Tucker is the place kicker. Morgan Cox from Baltimore is your long snapper. That's probably based on the Baltimore voting. Your return specialist is McCall Hardman from Kansas City. Feel that is well-deserved. Your special teamer, Matthew Slater. I would say he got in on name recognition, but he has been
he really did.
A solid special teamer.
He's blocked 2 punts this year already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. I'm saying that he probably did get in, though, via name recognition, but he deserves the voting as a special teamer. Based on what I've seen of the special team, especially, like you said, the early part of the year, which unfortunately most fans are not going to remember what a player did in September. Late October through Thanksgiving is pretty much when Pro Bowl voting starts and ends. That's pretty much what sticks out in fans' minds. On the NFC side, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson are your quarterbacks.
So let me put a pin in this and state, and this is the shocker I told you about that I was going to have in our chat before we came on. Russell Wilson, I have no problem with. I've already mentioned Breeze earlier, missing 5 games. I would probably not put him in. Yes, for the 9 games he has played, he's got, 21 touchdowns to 4 interceptions or something crazy like that. That's cool. He still missed 5 games, and he doesn't even have 3,000 yards passing yet. Aaron Rodgers does not look like Aaron Rodgers this year. And while he has phenomenal stats as well, I believe he's 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, as you mentioned earlier, I will remove those 2 and put any combination of Prescott, Cousins, or Garoppolo.
I would go with Prescott and Cousins. I don't think Garoppolo's. I mean, I know his numbers are going to be pretty close, but I don't think he's quite there yet.
Actually, and I'm shocked that you say that, because Garoppolo's touchdown and interceptions are the exact same as Prescott's, 26 and 11. The only difference is Prescott has 800 more yards passing than Garoppolo. And Garoppolo has a better completion percentage.
800 more yards is like 2 games worth of yards.
I trust me, I get that, but that's really that's the glaring difference. Again, teams with the best record tend to get rewarded. I'm surprised that there wasn't more of a push in Frisco for Garoppolo to make the squad. And look, I've been on him all year as far as the consistency, but you take the year as a whole, he's played well. But, maybe those games that they probably should have blown out teams, or that shouldn't have been close where they won because he didn't play well enough, sticks out more.
Your wide receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas. I would take Julio Jones out. I don't know who I'm replacing him with.
That's what I was about to say. Who are you? Because these are 4 of the 5 guys in the NFC who lead the league in yardage. All 4 of them are up there in the top 5.
Yeah, so it's hard to even take Julio out. Your running backs, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey. I would take Dalvin Cook out just because he messed my fantasy championship.
Okay. So aside from Jay's inherent bias through the fantasy football, I would like to put on Chris Carson, and if I had to remove a name, it would be Dalvin Cook.
See? You're with me.
Not for the same reason, though. Not for the same reason. Only from a performance-based look. McCaffrey is most likely going to do the 1,000-yard double. Ezekiel Elliott is, I believe, 2nd or 3rd in the league in rushing as a whole. And Dalvin Cook is not really consistent to me. Dalvin Cook had a phenomenal week 1 and has been coasting ever since, for the most part.
Telling me. Him and Alvin Kamara have really disappointed me this season. Very, very disappointing.
Well, Kamara missed a couple of games due to injury.
Yeah, well, and he also hasn't done anything in fantasy football since week 3.
Well, he's not scoring touchdowns, so that's
driving me nuts. We're at that position that should no longer be voted on by the fans. That's Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco. He is one of the best fullbacks, but he missed a bunch of games. Your tight ends, Zach Ertz and George Kittle.
No problems there.
No. The offensive line, Terron Armstead, New Orleans, David Bakhtiari, Green Bay, Tyron Smith, Dallas. Your guards, Brandon Brooks, Philly, Zach Martin, Dallas, Brandon Scherf, Washington. Centers, Travis Frederick, Dallas, Jason Kelsey, Philadelphia. There's a lot of name recognition on that offensive line.
Basically, most of this line is represented by the NFC East minus 2 tackles. And mostly Dallas. I mean, look, the Dallas guys, I'm not going to say their total name recognition with Smith, Martin, and Frederick, because these guys go every year, but in every season that they've gone, Dallas has been a top 5 rushing team. They get rewarded for it. So on the off chance one year they fall to like 20-something in rushing and these guys still go, I can make a case where none of them should be there, but can't. As far as Kelsey and Brooks, Kelsey is pretty much one of the best centers in the league, period. You can make an argument against Brooks being there. I have no problem with that. Brandon Scherf. Look, for the 2 games I saw Washington play against Philadelphia, He did his thing. He stopped interior pass rush for the most part. I don't believe he gave up any sacks in the games that Washington played against Philadelphia. As far as other games, I can't really say. I've only got a 2-game sample. Bakhtiari, I believe, goes on name recognition every single year because, Bakhtiari may be a wonderful pass rusher, but I do not see this guy giving his all in the run game. And that I have a problem with. Like, anytime you see the Packers run, it's up the middle or away from Bakhtiari. They're not running behind him.
Defense. Your defensive ends, Nick Bosa, I mentioned earlier, his brother, Joey Bosa on the AFC, Nick Bosa on the NFC, Daniil Hunter and Cameron Jordan.
Nah, I've got no problem.
Your interior linemen are Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald, Grady Jarrett. Now, I know your problems with Aaron Donald is that he doesn't play the run.
Mm-hmm. But again, stats. He's probably, got 10, 12 sacks already on the year already?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so that's why he goes every year.
Your outside linebackers, Shaquille Barrett, Chandler Jones, Khalil Mack.
Again, 3 more pass rushers. So
right. Your inside middle linebackers, Luke Kuechly, Bobby Wagner.
There was debate in the chat about Kuechly probably not being there.
Yeah.
Or shouldn't be there.
Yeah, we'll bring that up in a moment. The cornerbacks, Marshawn Lattimore, Jalen Ramsey, Richard Sherman, Darius Slay.
Okay, so pause for a minute. Jalen Ramsey, since he got to the Rams, I don't know that I can say he's done much of anything. His first couple of games, he was getting, not the first game against Atlanta, but the next 2 games after that, he was getting torched, constantly giving up passes. He was abused in the Monday night game against Baltimore. And again, we've already highlighted their tight ends are the big part of their passing game, not their wide receivers. But the receivers got the better of him in that game. Here's a question I want to ask you. So we got Jalen Ramsey, who started with the Jaguars, is with the Rams. And in the AFC, we have Marcus Peters, who started with the Rams, with the Ravens. If those 2 players stayed with their respective teams, would they still be in the Pro Bowl?
It's a great question.
Because I feel like Marcus Peters has been playing with a chip on his shoulder ever since getting to Baltimore. And again, for like the first, 5 out of 6 games, he had interceptions. And in 4 of those games, he ran them back for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Definitely had a chip on his shoulder with something to prove, whereas Jalen Ramsey is kind of just there in L.A., filling a void, not really doing anything.
That is a solid point, James. I like where your head is at with this. Your free safeties are Budda Baker from Arizona, Eddie Jackson in Chicago, and your strong safety is Harrison Smith from the Vikings.
I would probably question Budda Baker, but I don't have a strong candidate to replace him with.
Your punter is Tress Way from Washington. Your place kicker is Will Lutz in New Orleans. Your long snapper is yours, James, Rick Lovato from Philly. Your return specialist, Deontay Harris from New Orleans, and your special teamer is Cordero Patterson from Chicago.
I've got no issues there. I got no problems with
that. Nick, our chief superfan, the AFC tackle situation is hilarious. Ronnie Stanley, fine, but Laramie Tunsil and Trent Brown, LOL, LOL, LOL. Mitch Schwartz should be in as the best right tackle in football by leaps and bounds. Take one of those other schmoes off. Honey Badger has also had a better season than all of the AFC safeties other than maybe Minka and his odd journey this year. Take Adams or Earl off. And I already mentioned Devin McCourty, who also is a deserving safety. So there's a log jam at safety in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, our Lions superfan, mentions the NFC obvious snub, Dak, who would replace Aaron Rodgers. On defense, Demario Davis, who would replace Luke Kuechly.
That about him, yeah.
And Galladay should take Evans' place as alternate.
Yeah, Galladay's had a phenomenal season, but I mean, considering what's been happening at quarterback,